Super Soul Sisters, and we're so glad you're joining us yet again for another episode. My name is Rowena Kajumba, and I must say, today I'm particularly excited, and I hope everyone at home is excited, because our Super Soul Sister is none other than Honorable Dr. Miria Matembe, and of course, she has been able to squeeze in and make time for us so that we can engage and talk and walk through her journey and know what it is like to have our Super Soul Sisters in the work environment. Now, so many times we ask, or you ask, why we focus on women. Now, the women tell their stories, the women help other young women and men to see that this is something that we need to support and engage and help our young women also to close that gap, or at least come close to the gap. And for me, I'm very excited. And of course, this is going to be an interesting conversation. She's someone that is very vocal in terms of issues of women. And of course, she has always looked at what we call justice. She always seeks out for justice, and that is one thing that I think we all do appreciate about her. You're very welcome, Maripo.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Now, before all the titles that we are talking about here, and of course well-deserved, the people out there probably would want to hear from you here on Super Soul Sisters, who Miria Matembe is.
Well, and thank you very much for inviting me.
Yes.
To share my life experience in this program.
Yes.
Today I don't feel super excited, but nevertheless, you will.
Yes.
If you provoke me, then
Yes.
we shall excite the program.
Yes.
Well, as you have heard, I am Miria Matembe.
Yes.
My original names at birth was Miria Koburunga, and my father is Rukoza. Therefore, my full names are Miria Rukoza Koburunga Matembe. Matembe is the acquired name through marriage. It is the name of my husband. Now, well, I'm now a senior citizen in this country,
Yes.
but I have walked a journey right from childhood up to this stage. Otherwise, I was born many years ago in a village called Rutoma,
Yes.
with Wera, Kashari, which is currently called Mbarara district. The county Kashari is now called Mbarara district. And by the way, it is a distinguished county because many distinguished men and women
Yes.
originated from that
From the area, from the county.
even the village, even the king of Ankore comes
Oh.
from the same area.
Same region.
Although now they refuse to give us our king, but the home is there, the princesses are there,
Hey.
princes are there.
And so many Ugandans may be surprised.
And so that's my place where I was born. Where I was born to Mr. and Mrs. Samuel and Cesar Koza with 9 children. I had 8 siblings,
Oh, that must have
but
been.
unfortunately now only 4 of us are remaining. 3 girls and 1 boy, our firstborn. We have the firstborn, the second-born, and then me, I was the 4th-born.
Yes.
And I think the 6th-born is still there. Others passed on, and many of them passed on too early.
Yes.
But among them, the Lord God who created me for a purpose, which I have served very passionately and I continue to serve, honored me to be the the one from 4th child to the highest.
Yes.
I am like the one who
You're
has
acting like the
sustained
first, yes.
the family and up to now,
That
and
is
got the highest position and the highest, what you'd call honor in the
Yes.
family. The boys were 5, but the girls, we were 4.
Yes.
Our parents were peasants. Peasants, the poor parents, as you know them. But one good thing I thank my parents for is that they paid the school fees for us
They make
My
sure,
father, I would
yes.
say my father, because by then my mother had no right to participate in any decision.
Yeah, yeah.
So at least my father decided
Pushed.
to put all of us, boys and girls, in school, and it depended on each one's intelligence and wisdom and
And how you
ability
performed in school,
to proceed.
because, yes.
But good enough for me, I was, from the early stages, I was the one doing the best.
Most of the-
And
yes.
I remember when we would come back from school at the end of the term, and they are going to put reports on the table for my father to come and see.
see, yes.
They made sure that my report was
It was
on
the ones
top,
that studied.
because it was either I'm the first or the second, and
Yes.
once he sees it, then he's not so angry with
the
the
rest of
others.
them, yeah.
And I remember I used to even do running. I
Yes.
would get presents, like on speech day you get
You are an active
you get
child.
plates, you get cups, you get. I remember at one time in P7 I participated in a handwriting competition, and I won, and I think I was awarded a book. So by God's grace, according to his purpose for my life, he distinguished me early, right from the beginning, that I was the most sharp
Yes.
girl.
So what was it like growing
And
up? 9 of you.
moreover, loved by my extended family. I was born in a huge family,
Yes.
especially with my mother's side. Now, we went to school, both of us. One, I must tell you are enough right now,
Yes.
that my passion for gender equality and women's empowerment, which I have lived for, whether in office or out of office, was born out of my lived experience in the village,
What you saw, yes.
seeing the girl children being discriminated, suppressed, are not treated as full human beings in their own right. So that is where the journey begins. My mother was having these children, first boy, girl, boy, girl.
Yes.
So I was coming after a boy,
Yeah.
my brother, who was the third born, and I was the fourth. So usually you relate to the one you are near to.
Yes, yes.
Now, my lived experience was learnt in relation to how my brother was being treated and how I
Compared
was
to you,
discriminatorily treated. As I said, my father put us in school, all of us.
Yes.
We were a rural family, but near the school.
So you'd walk there.
Our life was not easy. In the morning, you'd get up, even when I was 7 years, you go to 6 o'clock, you are in the garden, you go to dig. My nails, some of them would cut my nails with a hoe, and instead of being soothed and comforted, you would come home, they would beat you because you are lazy. How did you cut yourself? Oh my God. Ours was a terrorist sort of upbringing. But I'm glad it turned us into who we are, rather than a relaxed upbringing,
people,
which is taking children to drink marijuana and that kind of thing. So from there, the bell would be going at school, and for me at home, you talk of breakfast, where was it? It was not there. We didn't even have water to wash our feet. So you run down, you know, the grass, you are passing through the grass, and the dew would be the one to wash your feet, and you reach school and they see you are so dirty and they beat you. Oh my God. It was a life which I wouldn't want any child to experience,
But those
especially
are
at this time.
Those are things
now,
you look
so
back
that was the life. And when you come back lunchtime, as soon as you arrive at home, my mother, you'd find her peeling matoke. Imagine you are supposed to go back, but she would be peeling matoke, putting on fire. She tells you, go and fetch water. My brother goes into the plantation, picks some pieces of wood, put in the fire, and then she would be putting matoke in the sufuria and put some salt. You think there was sauce. You put salt, then when the bell rings, she would do like this, the food, the one at the bottom, she puts in cold water. And cold water was very poor water from the well. I tell you how we survived, I don't know. And then we would cool it. When you have taken like 2 bites,
Yes,
the
and then
bell
you run
again
to
would ring, and then you run to school and you are
Yes.
late and they beat you, and that was the life throughout. And when you come in the evening, you know, you find the duties are located. I have to go and peel matoke and cook, and my brother has to take the goats for grazing and come with firewood. You know, that kind of
Yes,
experience.
I
That
can
is the
imagine.
life that we
Yes, I
lived.
can imagine.
But in the midst of this, we are going to school. But then what I observed was, whenever there would be no school fees, because certainly they would chase us back home. When
Yes.
the term begins, they chase you
you.
back home for school fees. And when you reach there, then my brother's school fees would be found within about 2 days. But
Yes.
for me,
You'd
it
have
would
to
take
wait.
2 weeks or a month before I get school fees. And that was not going down well with me in my life. I was asking in my heart, why? For him, he's gone back, me, I'm still here. But of course, you had nobody to ask. Those days, you ask a parent, no, you can't ask. And then the second thing was that my mother was a woman leader, Mothers Union, and she was a Christian woman. So in a week, 5 days, 2 out of those days, either in the afternoon she would go for fellowship, or she's going for Mothers Union meeting, and the other Thursday, I think, was a market day. So whenever in the afternoon she was going for those programs, I would not go to school in the afternoon. I would stay at home, take care of the siblings. And so that means in a week I go to school in the whole day for 2 days. The other 3 days I'm staying at home, and yet my brother will continue studying.
So let me ask, how about the older sister? You had an older sister as well.
Well, they were there. I wouldn't go into their life was not my question.
Yes.
What determined my direction was this one I'm near with.
Oh,
I
yes.
see we
So-
should go together. We
Yes,
should go.
yes.
But she goes to school, I'm not going. And the thing was not auguring well with me. And leave that aside. It even opened my eyes that the neighbors, the girls in the neighborhood were not going to school. And yet the boys were going to school. Only those girls, families where they had class, you know, rich people like teachers, headmasters, and chiefs, their children, all of them would go to school. But at least for me, I had that advantage of being a rural villager, and yet my father loved school. So she was taking all of us to school. And then what made matters worse was that even the girls, as I told you, that women used to come from Mothers Union or whatever, my mother was a leader, and they would sit with her and they would tell their stories, crying, and, you know, about what they were suffering in the homes. Me, I would do, as a girl, I would be there listening, and all this thing was adding together to disturb my mind. And then to put it to a climax, one time there was my father's sister who was married to whom I would call a vagabond. Because this man used to go far, we would say he's gone to Uganda to work as a laborer for so many months, and then the woman is taking care of the children, is doing everything, and when he would come back, moreover coming back with nothing, not even anything, then after about 3 days, he would beat this violent. He would beat this woman, my aunt, and my aunt would run home for safety, for refugee. And would be happy to have her there at home for us. We don't mind what was going on. But then after about 3 or 4 days, then my father would start now bashing her. You look what you are useless. That's why you failed to make your home. That's why your husband is chasing you away. And then in my mind I would say, but who is useless? This one who has been taking care of the children, or the other one who goes and comes with nothing and beats her? But the answer which my aunt used to bring were burning, inspiring fire in me, because she would say, I'm not useless, I brought cows in this home through bride price. Then she would say, I'm not useless, I bought boys for this man. And then I would say, but she's the one bearing children, and she says boys for this man. What about girls? You know, all those combined together and were in my mind, the mind of a young child. They were disturbing me, but I have nobody to ask. Until one time, I think somebody was murdered in a village there. Those days, it was extremely rare for somebody to die. But when people were gathering and discussing, and they said, that one will buy a pleader. I said, a pleader? Who is a pleader? They said a pleader is somebody who pleads for other people. I said, then I want to be a pleader and plead for women and girls. Why are they treated like this? And then I asked, what do you have to do to be a pleader? They said, you have to study law. So at 9 years, I had made up my mind to study law. I was wondering why they cannot be treated as full human beings. Then I was told that women, they are women, they are girls.
Can you imagine such an answer? Women
and girls, that's their lot. They are like that. That's how they have to be treated. I said, what? They are not human beings. I will grow up and study law and plead for them. So when you see me, some people, when I got up on the public platform with all this fire, which had been brewing in my heart for so long, people started saying, this woman bringing here English things, that they are bringing white people things here. I had not seen a woman, a white person, by the time I made up my mind that I would fight for the women. I had not. Now, good enough, down the road, my brother reaches P6, and he repeats. So I find him in P6, and we studied together, despite the fact that he was attending all school, and I was not attending all the time. Now we go together in P7. When we reached P7, that's when by that time P8 stopped. Otherwise, there used to be P8. So it stopped and we did exams in P7. So when we did exams in P7, I won. I passed in grade A and he did not pass. Those days, if you don't get first grade,
that is it for you.
You have to repeat. So I passed in grade A and he went in B. Can you imagine?
I can imagine.
Despite the fact that I was not attending all these classes, I had already distinguished myself as the brilliant one. But I was a girl. Anyway, I went to Weranyanji Girls Secondary School. For him,
now, sorry, he went
to repeat. Rutoma Primary School. Now I go to Weranyanji Girls Secondary School, a boarding school. Mark you, that is the first time I bought like a second dress. That is the first time. I used to be in uniform. I didn't have spare dresses. I never put on shoes. I've never... Hey, you are joking. When you see people here, you think things were like that. Things were tough. But one good thing is our parents were not greedy. Our parents were not beggars. They were not turned into beggars. They knew that they would do the work and pay school fees for their children. They did all this. So now I go to Weranyanji, go to senior 1. My brother goes to repeat. Next year, I got senior 2. And he goes to senior 1. Do you know what happened? My father tells my mother, you go and bring that girl from senior school so that some can go to secondary school. Because they didn't have fees for two children. So I think the other elder people had not gone to, we did better than them. My big brother, I think, became a clerk, court clerk somewhere after P8. And my sister was not doing well, she was still in whichever class. But now they came to withdraw me from senior to take me to a teacher training college. Because that time, the teacher training college in Kakoba, which used to train the primary school teachers, you would not pay school fees. So they wanted the boy, because he's a boy, to go to senior secondary school. And because I'm a girl, I come back and do teacher training to become a teacher. And I said, why? I said, I am not going. The headmistress said, no, you've got to be sorry for your parents. They don't have enough money. I said, why don't they take this boy to the to study teaching? And me, they leave me because I want to study law. Can you imagine the teacher was even, the headmistress was a woman. But she could not see my argument. She said, I've got to feel sorry for these parents. I said, why not
my brother,
He
yes.
said, no, you go home. I asked this teacher, I hear of bursary. Some people get bursary,
Bursaries,
the
yes.
poor and the orphans. Said, where can I get bursary? Can't I get bursary? He said, where? You go to Mbarara District Education Officer, maybe you get the bursary. So I asked my mother, do you know where the education office is? He said, I know where it is, but I can't speak English. I said, you know what? You let's go. Take me there, I will speak the English.
Yes.
And I was 14 years. I won't take you into this horror story. But I reached there, the district education officer, and we sat there the whole day. I'm there in my car uniform from morning to lunch time. People were going in, people going out. I don't know how to go in, I don't know. So when I peeped there like 1 o'clock, the man opened the door and he was coming out following the guest.
Yes.
Then when he saw us seated there, he said, woman, what can I do for you? Me, I stood up. When I saw it, I told my mother, stop. We stood up and my mother stood up. Said, woman, what can I do for you? Asking my mother, me, I said, sir, I want fees. I want school fees.
Yes.
I started crying.
Good confidence.
And
yes.
she said, okay, you come in. So he left his friend even whom he was taking for lunch. So they came in, we sat there. I told him my story. They are very unfair. I want to study law there. So the man said, okay, don't worry. You go back to school. We shall get back to you. So I told my mother, the man has said, you go home, me, I go back to school.
Yes.
So I went back to school. Within about a week,
yes.
the message came. This headmistress who had come to shatter my hopes, now she came running. Miss Koburunga, I have good news, you've got bursary. So from senior 2 up to the end of my education, bursary.
Bursary. But
And
I
then,
like.
Can you imagine that boy even stopped at senior 4? When she finished senior 4 in Barai School, he went to do electric technician.
And your dreams were going to be
and I'm the one who have taken care of all the children of those brothers and sisters of mine.
Now, if you didn't have the fighting spirit, you are going to end up.
I was finished. I would have died long ago because you see, at my age, go teaching at about 16 or 17, they would have married me off, and then I started delivering, maybe dying in childbirth. I am telling you, there are so many, especially many young girls, especially now that there is no bursary,
that is true,
whose dreams are shattered, whose destinies have been constrained. Because along this journey of life, you have dream killers. Can you imagine the dream killers were my own parents?
People,
they were now going to kill my dream. But I managed it, I fitted them, and then continued, went to HSC, continued with my dream of studying law. And then when I reached HSC in Namasagari College, it was called Kamuli College, but eventually became Namasagari Secondary School. That's when I studied British parliamentary history. And they were debating what the parliamentarians were saying in parliament. That's when I learned that law is made in parliament. So my dream to become a lawyer at HSC level was extended to becoming a member of parliament. Because if I become a lawyer and I find that the law which is there is not good, then I would go in parliament and change the law and make the law say what is right for women and girls. And all along in my life, I was dreaming of a time when I would get a high hill, or at least a hero, a platform, and I would call all the women and girls. Of course, I was thinking girls and boys in my village. No, girls and women in my village, Rutoma. I never thought I would go beyond. But my dream was I would call these girls and women, and I tell them, come, let us fight. We are cheated. Let us fight for our rights. That was what was always in my heart. When I finished HSC, with now my dream to become a lawyer, study law and become a member of parliament. Now I put choice to Makerere to study law. And then my father when they called me to study law, my father once again wanted to kill my dream. He said, no, you cannot study law. Girls don't study law. Not in my house. I will ostracize you. You people, you are joking. When you see yourself studying any profession, it because we fought. It's a result of our fighting, you know. But people now don't know. They are complacent. They don't know what we went through. So I said, this man, after all, he said, you are not going. I said, maybe I study medicine. He said, no, women can't study. Go and study law or teaching. You know, when I saw it was reaching nowhere, I told him, you know what? I'm not the one who called myself. Yes. You go to Makerere and ask tell the headmaster. Yes. You think my father knew of vice chancellor or whatever? I say go to Makerere and tell the headmaster is the one who called me. He's the one to change the course. Because he didn't know where to begin to go to Makerere, a village in Urtoma village. I was able to take my mother to education officer for my own benefit. Yes. But this time I could not lead my father to Kampala to destroy my dream. So he gave up. Yes. So I defeated him. But anyway, I had even said anyway, if this man ostracizes me, let him go ahead. After all, he didn't pay school fees. Now when I finish, when I'm ostracized, I don't have to. He doesn't have to depend on me because I want to give him my money. But anyway, I managed. The dream was never killed. I went to Makerere University, where I studied my law and passed with a second class degree, second honors.
Now, a quick reminder, we are here at Daughters Exclusive, and I must say, she mentioned something very important, that if it wasn't for her and people like her to fight, to push, to go against what we used to call, what we would call the status quo, then many young girls might have lost opportunities in today's society. Now, of course, the struggle still continues, but we still have people like her to speak and talk about these things. Now, when you're listening out there and you're a man or a boy and a girl or a woman, it is meant to show you that we cannot start limiting people just because, oh, you're a girl, you cannot do this. If they have potential in a sense and they can do it, why don't let these people do it? Because it has nothing to do with how it affects them biologically, it has nothing to do with the biology. So why do you stop someone from going on and improving themselves? Now, I want to take you back a bit, Doctor. Now, when you mentioned being in Gwerananje, single school. When you go to Gwerananje, it's a single school, it's a boarding school. You've been at home in an environment where you've taken lead. You've had to step in. Of course, like you said, you were pushed to the side because you had to create space for your brother. So what was it like getting into a school that only had girls? What did you identify? What did you see? Did you see something similar from what you saw back at home?
I mean, I don't think that changed any perception because we were all young girls, we were studying, we were... but except that, of course, the experience I had, I was a poor girl, others went with mattresses, me, I went with a cross with what do you put in mattress, those things, cotton wool, put in the cloth, and you know, and we used my experience at that place, which I'll share with these people who are poor, who now ask for pocket. There was no pocket money for me. The parents would give me money for transport and back. And good enough, another thing which I want to say at that school, compared to what is happening here, there was no class society. It depended on your brains. You are wise and intelligent. You find yourself studying with ministers' daughters. I remember one of the ministers' daughters we were studying with was Katiti. There was Honorable Katiti, and Anna Katiti was my schoolmate. There were this Rwangai, he was a very important man. Those rich people in Kampala and so on, they were there with us. For them, they would have with pocket money, they would come with a lot of things, extra dresses and so on. But you know what I used to do? For me, there used to be this canteen. So we break off in the evening. The rich people, the rich women would want to go and buy cakes and buneno, you know, the nuts, and for tomorrow's break tea. when we went for break, they would run to their halls and take some juice, quencher, and cakes and so on. So what I did, I used to have my roommate. I was on top. Yes. She was the one on the deck on top. Then I was down. So she was coming from a rich family. So every time we break off for evening, she would give me money to go and line up. Other people go to study and do their prep. For me, I'm lining up at the canteen because you had to line up because children were many. Line up and buy the cakes and nuts. And when I bring to them, she would give me a cake, at least one cake. So also the next day when their break time, I would get some water. And they think I have juice. I put water in my glass and have a cake also. So that's how I managed to get through. People say pocket money, they do what. But you see how we grew up and who we are. Let me tell you one thing I want to tell the young people listening to me, that your past cannot determine your future. The past cannot determine your future. I remember when I wrote my first book, the first autobiography I wrote, it is Miria Matembe, Gender, Politics and Constitution Making in Uganda. And I told this story, and some woman came and said, but how can you embarrass yourself telling this kind of story? Imagine. Somebody said, why are you embarrassing yourself? Like what I'm telling people. Like I would go and line up. That I would go and line up to get cake. And those people I lined up to get cakes for. Those people I went with Weranyanyi with. Those people with nobody has reached my level. My level of achievement in this country. They are not there. They are not there.
And that's part of your story, how someone
I remember only my friend who is now, we used to compete together throughout primary. We even went to secondary together. We went to Namasagara together. At least she's the only one now with me, next to me. When I left, she even studied law afterwards. So when I left Parliament, she contested. She didn't go through, but eventually she became a minister also. So we are like this. We are like two sisters. But for me, when she was studying for her, she had aunties who would bring her extra dresses. She was, even up to now, in terms of resources and whatever, she's better than me. But for me, because I was driven by a dream, if you asked me, have you achieved what you wanted? I was looking at calling people in my village to tell them, let's fight for ourselves. Little did I know that I would run with this message, that I would run with it internationally in the whole world. When one day I stood at Nigeria, was it first time in Nigeria? To speak, I stood up to speak on behalf of Uganda on a conference for women after Nairobi conference. That was the beginning. When I stood up and spoke, people, all the press ran after me. And then they said they must call me to Tanzania. There was a conference on popular participation, and they called me. Then I went to Dar es Salaam. I stood on a podium when I spoke on behalf of the women of Africa. They drew a cartoon. Somebody drew a cartoon of what I was saying, and it circulated in the whole conference. And then there, of course, many other conferences. And whenever I would stand to speak on behalf of Africa, what I would say is what would matter. And I remember towards Beijing, when we held the African conference preparation for Beijing, I was like the leader of all these recommendations which were being made in Senegal. And then when I stood up in 1995 on a Beijing International Conference for Women in Beijing, and I made a statement on behalf of the subject, I was invited by UN, by the way, and the subject was strategies to increase women's participation in politics. And when I stood up and talked,
Yes.
I got a standing ovation in the whole. Now, when you ask me that, Miria, did you realize the objective? When I was saying I would call this village, now I'm talking to the whole world.
Yes.
That is one. Then the other achievement, of course, we have come to this achievement, Ari, but then the other achievement was when I was thinking I would go to law, to parliament and make law. Little did I know that one day I'll be one of the 21 member commission, the Odochi Commission, to be the one to draft the national constitution for Uganda, a constitution, the mother of all laws. And then I also went into CA, the Constituent Assembly, to debate the draft constitution and pass it. Not only did I didn't stop there, I was even on the committee, legal and drafting committee, which completed this constitution and like put a stamp onto this is the final constitution. Oh my God. For me, I don't know what to give God in life. Because in life, what did I want? That's what I told you what I wanted.
Yes.
That's what I wanted. And if you know how many women, how many people I have had an impact on.
So many.
For me, don't ask me about wealth I don't have. Don't ask me about any other thing. But I have a passion, I have a vision, I have God's purpose in my life. He gave me the talents of my mouth. I stand up and speak, and there it is.
But what was it like being now away from home? You're in Kampala now. You're probably starting over, or you had relatives around?
My Kampala story was very long. Remember, I had to go to HSC in Namasagari. It's also another story. It had been late. That's when they reached the election. There was no cheating of. The first cheating in exams happened in 1970 when we were finishing Bweranyanji. And we rural people stayed at home, didn't know that there was cheating, and therefore cheating interrupted with the calling of students to go to study. So I kept waiting for my call. It never even came. So by the time it came, I had already missed like a whole 2 terms, and we had to get somebody. I talked to my father, talked to somebody to go, and they secured me a place in Namasagari. It was not easy. There were many, the number of dream killers. But I managed to get through and reached Makerere. In Kampala here, I had an aunt. I remember the first time I got into a vehicle to go to Namasagari. Mark you, I had never left Kampala, not even reaching Nakawa there, because we were living at 16 Tanan Avenue, East Nakasero there. That's where my aunt and husband were living. And when I used to come to Kampala, I would pass there. So I had to get into a vehicle, reach Jinja. I had never heard these other languages. I reached Jinja. And then they were calling people, Idinda. I said, but what is Idinda? I couldn't understand Idinda. But anyway, I got into the vehicle, asked where is Namasagari College. They didn't even know, but how do you even ask them? Anyway, we went to reach Kamuri town. And then the bus was calling, Namsagar. So what is Namsagar? I didn't know Namsagar. I was asking people, where is Kamuri College? They said, oh, you go Namsagar. So Kamuri College was at Namsagar. So I got into that bus and we go. When we reached at the stage, I think it was the trading center, I saw Kamuri College pointing there, the sign pointing. I jumped out of the bus. I said, even if it is how many kilometers, at least I've seen where it is going. When I got out of the bus, the bus took off and continued in the same road. But anyway, I walked and I found the distance was near there. And then I talked with this teacher, the headmaster. He told me, for me, I beat students. I said, me, I can never be beaten. I laughed. He said, you mean you beat? How? He said, yeah, he'll beat you. And he was beating them. But me, I said, I can never be beaten.
Yes.
And this was the third term of senior 5. I had missed all the... But when I reached there and entered my classroom, my determination was to finish and study law. And there was even... We used to go dancing. Namsagar was a unique thing there. But anyway, I managed to... I had focus.
Yes,
one thing I want to tell the young women listening to me, the moment you have a childhood dream, when you have a dream, in other words, a purpose, a vision, however much it is interrupted, however much dream killers come, as long as you have, you'll stay on course and with your God, because it is God's purpose for your life, you will realize it. So when I finished Makerere, I finished Makerere at the wrong time because Amin had already taken over. Amin took over before I went to Makerere. He took over when we had I had gone to HSC, senior 1, HSC.
Senior 5, yes.
Senior 5. So he took over Kampala, and that's when he banned minis. If I tell you my journey with my mini dress, at one time I was arrested for putting on a mini. And it was not mini, but I think it was harassment.
Yes,
the police
they intended to sort of exaggerate.
They wanted to rape, I think so. Girls. If I was not vocal by nature, I think they would even have raped me. Because I had reached Kampala in the morning.
Yes.
I had reached, we go travel by bus in the morning. When I was getting out of the bus, this man says, you are in a mini. They arrested me. He was having other people. He was crazy, arresting people. They are planting marijuana, going to the rural areas. So it was like about 3 o'clock. He took me to police station. So when I reached there, I used to have an uncle. Yes. He was called Rwakanenjere, and I knew he was a police commander. Yes. There in Mbarara, over police head. Yes. Then I asked when I was entering, I asked where is he? They told me his office was that. So when these people said, you remove the shoes, yes. They told me, I used to be an athlete. I used to run, and I was shot like this, so I did like this, and and stormed into his office. Yes. I stormed into his office, and he said, Kovrunga, what is it? I said, these people are arresting me that I'm putting on mini. I said, who is this? I said, he's called Inspector Chigozi. You think Inspector Chigozi was not sacked? Because when I came, he said, my daughter, law student at Makerere, Inspector Chigozi, go home. So I survived. I went through many challenges, but those are other stories which you cannot learn.
I like.
But I finished that, and then by the time I finished university, of course, when we went into university, that's when they banned trousers. One interesting story, which was, it was interesting because my roommate used to sit there and laugh as I told the story. When I reached Makerere, by then Makerere, they were getting what they called boom. Okay. It was the government giving them pocket money and allowance.
Oh, yes.
So the first term, we got that boom. And when I got it, but I haven't told you my father's story. When I finished HSC, I was teaching. Yes. This teacher. Yes. And then my father said, okay, when you teach, you bring me your money, and I'll go and I will give you a bull when you are going to the university. So he would come and take the money. Yes. By then, the communities we lived in were really wonderful communities, because where I was teaching was a distance from my home. You see, my father would come with one bunch of matoke and a can, not a can, a chance, I don't know what you call it, of milk. Yes. That would be for me for the whole month. He would not come back, but he would bring that and take my money to pay school fees for all my siblings. Yes. I'm telling you the difference that has happened in this country. Yes. That's why more people are poorer and more people are not educated. Because for me, my education helped to educate all my siblings. Yes. Because even after O-level, I was teaching. Then after A-level, My father would take my money to pay school fees for my siblings. Then the villagers where I was,
Yes.
they would feed me. They loved me. They said, "Oh, our teachers," because I was teaching their young people in primary. So they would bring me chicken. They would call me to their homes to eat. They became like my parents, which cannot be now. Things have really changed. And then at the end of it all, when I was left with 1 month, I told my father, you know what? Where is the bull? Give me the bull I want to, because I'm going to market, I want to buy things. So he asked me, what do you want to buy? I say handbag, then I would be having a small one from Mutunda. But you have a handbag. Then I say, but I want shoes, but you have shoes. I want dresses, you have that dress. Those were not fit for Makerere. And then when I... When I said I looked for something I didn't have, I say I want a watch. Then he said, "Hey, Kovrunga, have you forgotten what I told you?" Because they had told us as we grew up, two principles: never desire what you cannot afford for you. Never put yourself at the level you have not reached. So those are the two value principles that have sustained my life. When you see me Minister of Integrity and that kind of thing, those integrity values have sustained me up to now. So I grew up not desiring what my parents can't afford and not putting at myself at a level I have not reached. We grew knowing that there were a level of peasants. They cannot desire what the teachers. There was a level of headmaster, the level of a nurse, the level of a chief. So you children of peasants, you can't put yourself at that level. And so you get satisfied with what you have.
And he reminded you.
So he said, you Kovrunga, have you forgotten? I told you not to put yourself at a level you have not reached. And I said, worry. If at a university level, I have not reached at that level, when shall I reach at that level? And mark you, I was the first woman girl, the first girl in that village or at our village or even in the county, I think, the county of Kashari, to go to university and a lawyer.